This video will be in place of the Unit N.3 collaboration session. So you will not be doing the collaboration session for Unit N.3, but you should have done the preparation activity and you also need to do the exercise. Please do that after you watch this video and try the 2 problems at the end of this paper on your own. So while you're watching this video, I do want you taking notes on the handout that I gave to you or the professor in our classroom gave to you today. So this lesson is focusing on what we are going to call the average balance method. And this method is used to determine an estimated monthly payment on a loan. So now let's talk about why do we usually take out a loan? So often we need to take out a loan from a bank or say borrow money from a parent. So a loan is taken out to make a large purchase. Now, large is a subjective word. What is large? That could be 500, it could be 5,000, it could be 50,000, it could be 300,000. Think about how much a car costs. Well, probably a used car is like anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000. A new car probably runs around $30,000, $40,000. A house, very different costs for houses. It could be, a small house for $100,000. It could be a mansion in the central New York area, which would be like about $400,000, or it could be a very large house, or a small house in a city area, which could be millions of dollars. And then often loans are taken out for college educations as well. So there are lots of tools out there so that you could calculate more accurately the amount of a monthly payment for these types of loans. Or we're going to work on a method for determining an accurate estimate for a monthly payment. And we've talked about estimations. Estimations are not accurate. It's more like saying, I think that my payment is going to be about $300 a month. So we just want to have an idea, what am I getting myself into? And then there's also other variables that you always want to think about in terms of, is this loan a good or bad idea? So it might be things like, what are you making every month? Or what other bills do you have to pay? Are you trying to pay back a student loan and you need to buy a new or a used or different car and you're trying to buy a house? So all of those factors are going to play into whether or not you're going to be able to afford to take out a new loan. In order to determine All right, so in order to determine the amount of a monthly payment for a loan, we need to know the following. So we need to know the loan amount or the principal. And the variable that we're going to use there is P. So that is how much money are you borrowing? You also need to know the interest rate. And so the interest rate is our R, and this is the amount charged on top of the amount you're borrowing. And this is often given to you as a percent, but you need to be able to also write this as a decimal. So if the interest rate is 5%, you need to know that 5% is equivalent to 0.05. And I want you to take a few moments and make sure that you're understanding how to compute an interest rate given as a percent into a decimal. The other thing that we need to consider is, what is the agreed upon length of time you are given to pay back the loan? And then also, what are the benefits of having a shorter or longer loan length? So in order to figure this out, we also need to know that usually the term of a loan is given in years, but remember our job is to figure out what our monthly payment is. So we do need to know that 1 year has how many months. So as you're writing this down, remember, as I'm doing the video, you should be writing on your set of notes. So you need to remember that 1 year has 12 months. And I'm just going to abbreviate that MOS. So 1 year has 12 months. No, this is going to be important. When you borrow money from a bank, you must pay back all of the money you borrow plus interest. So when you pay this back, it's the principal plus all of the interest. That's the total amount. So at the end of the loan term, you're going to add up all of your monthly payments, and that will equal the full principal plus all of the interest you paid. So your monthly payments are partial principal and monthly interest combined. So this is our situation that we're going to be working with. And notice we're comparing two loans. So the situation is Melinda is buying a car and needs to borrow $12,000 to make her purchase. She is trying to decide between two loans. So they have some similarities, but then also a major difference. So loan one has an annual or yearly percentage rate, also known as an APR of 5%. And this loan has a loan length, also known as a loan term of 3 years. Loan 2 also has an annual percentage rate of 5%, just like loan 1, but the term or loan length of loan 2 is 6 years. We're going to work together to use what is called the average balance method to determine a reasonable estimate. Remember, nothing perfect here, for a monthly payment for a car loan of 12% with an annual percentage rate of $12,000 with an annual percentage rate of 5% and a loan length of 3 years. So in order to do so, we first must understand the simple interest formula and define our variables. Okay. So the simple interest formula is I equals PRT. So I stands for interest. P is our principal. So for Melinda, the principal is $12,000. The interest rate, not interest, but interest rate, or R, and I'm going to use lowercase r here, is 5%. But remember, 5% is equivalent to 0.05. And if you are troubled with, okay, how did you get that? Remember the word percent. Per means out of, and cent comes from the word 100. So it's out of 100. So 5 divided by 100 is 0.05. And then we have two different loans that we will be comparing, but the first one, which is loan 1, T is 3 years. And then remember, in order to determine our monthly payment, I'm sorry, that was loan 1, our monthly payment, we need to remember that 3 years is equivalent to 36 months because every year has 12 months. Okay. First, let's pretend, that the bank is going to be very nice and not charge you any interest for the full 3 years. So in order to determine our monthly payments, we are simply going to take our $12,000 and divide it by 36. Remember, that's the number of months in 3 years. So to determine our monthly payment, if no interest was charged, we're going to take that $12,000 and divide by 36 months. And that gives us $333.33, rounded to the nearest penny. Now, let's calculate our monthly payment if we are charged interest on the full principal. That's $12,000 for the full 3 years using the simple interest formula. Remember, the interest rate is 5%, which written as a decimal, which is 0.05. So that's $12,000 times 0.05, and then times 3 years. Remember, we're trying to find this for the full 3 years. That's loan number 1. So that means the interest that we're going to pay is $1,800. To find our monthly payments, we would take the loan plus the interest. So that's $12,000 plus $1,800, which gives us our original loan amount plus interest is $13,800. Now, to figure our monthly payment there, we're going to take that amount. So that's the loan plus interest. And we're going to divide by 36. That's our number of payments. So that gives us an estimated loan amount of $383.33. So remember, estimated loan amount, if no interest was charged, is quite a bit lower, $333.33 estimated loan payment. If we're paying interest on the original loan amount the entire 3 years. Now, we need to recognize neither of these calculations are realistic. The bank is going to charge you interest. So the first calculated monthly payment is way too low. But the bank is not going to charge you interest on the full principal for the full loan length, because every time you make a monthly payment, the amount you owe the bank is decreasing. So the second calculated monthly payment is way too high. I also want us to kind of get an idea of what do I mean by the loan decreasing. So let's think about our loan amount over time. So our goal is we're making monthly payments for 3 years. We are starting, so start is our beginning amount of time, 0 years, 0 months. I just took out this loan. We are starting with $12,000. But every time I make a payment, it is decreasing until after 3 years, my loan balance is 0. So I am done paying that loan. It is 0. So this is why we do not want to use the simple interest formula of $12,000 times our interest rate of 5% for the entire 3 years. Because notice, I started with $12,000, but we ended with $0. And this is why this is called the average balance method, because I can literally say, well, the amount I'm paying on this loan is really somewhere on average between $12,000 and $0. So this means that a better estimate of your monthly payment is somewhere in the middle of those two calculations. Therefore, we should use the average of the two. So what we can do here is we can, instead of doing two full steps, we can say, okay, if I had no interest plus full interest, I could take those two, add them, and divide by 2. Or another way I could do it is I can take the original principal, that's $12,000 in this case. I can divide that by 2. There's my average. Then multiply that by my interest rate of 5%, and then multiply it by the time, which is 3 years. So $12,000 divided by 2, there's our $6,000 times 0.05 times 3. So that says I'm not going to really be paying as much as $1,800 in interest. I'm probably going to be spending more like $900 in interest over the full 3 years. So that means I'm going to be paying the bank back at the end of the 3 years, the $12,000 plus the $900 in interest, which is $12,900. So that's all of the money I'm going to eventually have to give the bank. The amount I originally took from the bank, $12,000. And then the interest, which is again like a fee, it's a thank you to the bank, of about $900. And then lastly, we're going to take all of that and divide by 36, which is our number of months. So $12,900 divided by 36 gives us an estimated monthly payment of $358.33 if we round to 2 decimal places. Again, $358.33 is a good estimate. It is an estimate. I'm going to keep focusing on this. It's a good estimate for our monthly payment for 3 years, a loan amount of $12,000, interest rate of 5%. So now what I want you to do, and I want you to go through this very systematically. So I want you to try this method to determine a reasonable estimate for a $12,000 loan with an interest rate of 5% and a loan length this time now of 6%. Remember, that's loan number 2 that Melinda is trying to investigate. And this is what we're using. It's called the average balance method for calculating an estimated monthly payment of a loan or for a loan. So we're going to use this formula right here. We're going to take the principal, which is $12,000. We're going to recognize that's the original amount I took out, but as I make payments, it's getting lower and lower and lower. So to appreciate that I'm starting at 12,000 and eventually it's going to get down to 0, I'm going to divide that by 2. Our interest rate is still 5%, but this time we're taking it out for 6 years. So I want you to do this one on your own. That is our estimated interest. Now, in order to figure out what we're going to have to pay the bank back, that is our principal, that's $12,000 still, plus our estimated interest, that's the calculation that we just did. And then lastly, we're going to take that full amount and divide by the number of months. Now, that's something, again, I want you to be able to do. 6 years is equal to how many months? So you need to determine that in order to find your monthly payment. Make sure you round to the nearest cent. And then I want you to take this a step farther and ask yourself a few other questions. First, I want you to read below for the answer. Were you able to calculate this correctly? If not, I want you to see me. For a loan of $12,000 with an APR of 5% and a loan length of 3 years, your monthly payment is going to be about $358.33. If we take the same loan out for 6 years, it's going to be lower, $191.67. So that should have been the answer that you got right here. So now I want you to think about what are some of the advantages of taking out this loan for 3 years versus 6 years? What are some disadvantages for taking this loan out for 3 years versus 6 years? Which loan would you choose and why? And then factors that I'd like you to think about. What is your monthly income? What are your other expenses? What can you afford? Remember, this is for a car loan. How much do you drive? Will you be driving in central New York where salt is used on the roads during the winter? What will the resale value of this car be in 6 years? And then the last thing I want you to do is practice this again. First question, student loan. So I would like you to use the average balance method to estimate your monthly payments for a student loan of $60,000, interest rate of 6.7%, and you need to pay this back within 10 years. And then the second practice problem is a house loan or a mortgage of $340,000 with an interest rate of 7.1%, and this needs to be paid back within 30 years. So I'm asking you to determine an estimated monthly payment for both of those situations, and good luck.